I'm Patrick Bailey with whiteboardcoder.com. Today is May 29th, 2016. In this video, I'm going to be installing HAProxy on an Ubuntu 14.04 box and get it to get it to round robin load balance between two Nginx servers behind it. Now here's the setup I'm going for. Now I've already created 3 basic Ubuntu boxes with nothing installed on them, but they're all 14.04. And they all have these static IP addresses locally. So one's 192.168.0.9, one's .10, one's .11. So the first thing I want to do is actually get the Nginx boxes up and running with Nginx installed, just bare bones basic. So let me go do that right now. So here is the first one. And what I want to do is sudo apt-get install -yes Nginx. And that should install a basic Nginx. That's all we need. And it should go pretty quickly. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to edit the index.html file. So we're not changing anything. We're just using we're using the default location. So HTML index. So that's the default index.html to usually point to. And I'm going to wipe the whole thing out. And I have a little cut and paste over here I'm going to stick in here, but you can kind of do whatever you want. The only point of this is that I actually have this is the first one. So this is the first server, and so I'll save that, and Nginx should be running. And so now if I go to .10, I go to .10, there we go, there's the first server. So now I need to get a second server running. Let me go do that real quick. Go over to 11. Okay, so here I am on the second server. So there's the second server. So same procedure. -yes install Nginx. Let that run. Up there, and then edit the base directory, the base index. Nginx HTML index. There we go. Delete all that and do a copy and paste here again. Insert. Yeah, okay, so there's span 2, exactly what I want. Looks good. So I'll just save it. Oh, and I should have done this before. LSB release -a, just to show you that I am on 14.04. Okay, so this one should be working still, and I should be able to go to 11. So there's server 2, really easy to spot, and server 1. And I kind of wanted to do that so when I load balance between the two, it's really cake to see. So, yeah, that's working. So now, next part, let me get on to doing a basic install of the HAProxy. Okay, now into the HAProxy box. So let me go into here. Now, one thing I did notice, I ran an app-cache policy, HAProxy. So I wanted to see what version would install. And if you look at this, it's going to install 1.4. And I don't really want that. I want to get a more current version. You know, so I want to get the 1.6. So on Ubuntu 14.04, I got to do a few more steps. So I do a sudo apt-get. Oh, move this over here. Sudo sudo add apt repository. We're going to add a new repository to refer to. And I found this one. VBERNAT HAProxy -1.6. That's the one we need so we can actually install 1.6. Now, if you're on Ubuntu 16.04, you probably already have that. You don't need to worry about that, I think. I haven't yet switched over to 16.04, but that's coming in the near future. So apt-get update. So you got to update everything. That might take a moment, so I'll let it speed up the video here. Oh, wasn't too slow. Okay, then we do a sudo apt-get dist upgrade. Yes. I'll let this go. Okay, so now that's all done. So now I should be able to look at the policy again, and I should have 1.6. There we go. So now I do a sudo app-get install HAProxy. Yes. Should have put a -y in there so I didn't have to answer that, but sometimes I forget to put the -y in there. Like right now. Okay, so it's installed now. Now I need to configure it. So you go to sudo vi etc HAProxy, and there's the HAProxy configuration file, which I found is not too bad to read. I need to expand this a little bit. So I've made a real basic one, so I'm actually going to come in here and wipe this guy out and do a little cutting and pasting, and then I'll explain what I've done. In fact, I should probably put this in the show notes. Make a note for myself for the basic configuration. So that's in my show notes now. Okay, so we go to the very top here. So there's your global settings. You need some of that. Max connections, 1,000 connections. Some things you may need to tweak. I'm not saying this is an ideal setup. So based on live systems, you may need to tweak some of these, but this gets you going and get you started. Here's some of your defaults. It's listed on HTTP, etc., etc., etc. Then here's where we go. So now we're going to listen. So we're going to listen and we're calling this thing HTTP proxy, and we're going to bind it to everything port 80. Now you can change this. I think you can do things like this, www.example.com, if you want to do that. But I'm just saying everything on port 80, bind it. And I'll do a round robin, and I'll do these servers, and I can list as many servers as I want here. So I'm going to list the 2 servers I have. So I'm going to call this server 1, server 2, and 192.168.0.10 and 11. And then we'll list on port 80. And I don't have to put this here, but I can set the max connections per server. So here I just put it as 100, kind of as a test. And so this should work now. So let me restart it. So sudo service HAProxy restart. And it cannot bind. Okay, I did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Failed. Okay, I did something wrong. Did I? That's right. Failed to bind. Try it again. Okay, well, give me a second. I'll go look that up and see what the problem is. Okay, I think I figured it out. I got a little ghost machine. So in my setup before, I had installed Nginx on this HAProxy box accidentally and removed it. And so I think the Nginx is still, when it grabbed port 80, it didn't give it up when I wiped it out. So if I do netstat-ntlp, I can see that there's something still listed on port 80. And I think if I just reboot, I think I should be fine. So I'm just going to do a real lazy, real lazy reboot. So that should reboot everything, and it should restart the HAProxy in a second. So that file, I think it was fine. It just couldn't grab port 80 because someone else had already grabbed it. Come on. Okay, so there. Oh, well, I had tweaked on that. Sorry. Let me change this host name real quickly. I was just doing that out of the box. There we go. Okay, so now we look good. So let me go look at my server. So the 10 is still up. The 11 is still up. And if I go pull up the 9, which is the HAProxy box, sitting in front as a load balancer, I think I should work. There we go. So now this is the HAProxy box, and if I hit refresh, it should round robin. 1, 2, 1, 2. Perfect. That's exactly what I expect. It's hitting both those boxes, and it's just doing round robin. I'm the only one hitting it, so I'm always going to be going back and forth. So that's working exactly as I expect it to based on the file I gave it. Next up, I'm going to go add an HAProxy page that kind of shows the statistics that are going on behind the scenes. And it's kind of nice to view while you're doing it. Okay, next here I'm going to set up a HAProxy statistics page. And so what we need to do is go back and edit the HAProxy configuration file. And this is actually a pretty easy thing. So you come down here, find a nice little spot. I'll put it here. And I'm going to cut and paste this and go over it. So this is called, it's a listen, and it's called stats. And it listens on port 8080, HTTP. It only allows a few connections, 10, which makes sense because not too many people should look at this. Enable HA, and here's all the generic stuff. And then you can authorize it. So you put in a username and a password. In this case, I put admin in my password. And now if I go to the HAProxy box, port 8080, I should see a statistics page. Well, not yet until I restart it. So let me kill that and then do sudo service HAProxy restart. So I restarted, it's okay. And if I look at this, I'm still bouncing back and forth like I want to. And I'm going to take this and open a new page, port 8080. And there I got to do my login, admin, my password. And there I go. So now I can see statistics. So here I can see there's server 1 and server 2, and they're connected, and there's a little bit of information here. This is a useful page, as you'll come to find out, because you can see when things are down. And I'll go over that in a minute, but up next, I'm going to go over health checking, which then you can see if it does a health check. If the health check fails, then you'll see that this server is down. Oh, before I go into health checking, I can actually forcefully do that. So let me go get an HAProxy here and go into one of these boxes. So I'll go to this box and I can do sudo service nginx stop. So now I've killed the nginx service on server 1, and if I go to here, I'm getting nothing. Now what I should see on here is is it not doing health checks? Oh, you know what? I'm not doing health checks, so it should just blindly do round robin, I guess. Maybe not blindly. Look, here I refresh. I'm going to number 2. Maybe it hits 1 and fails and goes to that. Well, anyway, next up, I'm going to do health checks. Health checks. Health checking in HAProxy is pretty cool and very useful, and so you can use it in such a way that you can say, hit this resource URL, as an example, and if it's down or if it may give you the wrong value, you can take that box out of rotation. Now that can be useful if your boxes are fine, because let's say you have 8 boxes and you want to update 4 of them or something, you can, if the check is actually checking for something specific, you can change that information to say it's down, and they'll be taken out of rotation, even though they're up. And then you change it back and they come back. So it's useful for a lot of things. Or if you have a box that's acting up, you could just mark it in such a way that the check fails and it takes out of rotation, but the box is still up. You can go tweak on it and test on it. And you didn't even take down the nginx if you wanted to. Anyway, so let me go edit. Let me do sudo vi, etc. HAProxy config. So now what we want to do is to tweak this a little bit. No, not that. So now we're down here at the servers, and so what we can do is we can put an option here. So we can go option HTTP check, and we can do a get, and we can hit in the URL /check if that's what we want to do. You can make it / whatever you want. I'm just using /check. And then down here on the servers, you have to actually add a check at the end. And I'm also going to add a rise to fall to, which is a little redundant, but I'll explain that in a second. So this says run a check. This defines where the check should be. And then this says how many checks should fail. So the fall is when you're failing. So if I check it and it fails, I'll check it again. If it fails twice, then I bring it down. And if it's down on the rise, I'll check it this number of times. If it passes once, I won't bring it back. If it passes twice, I'll bring it back. And you can customize those. Also, I think the default check increment is 2 seconds, if I recall correctly. Anyway, so this is a basic setup. And so here I can kill this and restart the HAProxy. And now both of my Nginx boxes are running, and so I'll show that there's 10 and there's 11. They're running just fine, but they're going to fail because I don't, see it says 503, service unavailable, because I don't have a /check. So if I hit here and hit /check on both of these, I got nothing, right? Now if I go to my statistics report now if I refresh on this, I should see they're both down. They've been down for 33 seconds. So good. So now what I can do is I can go over here and go by, etc. share, not share. What do I do? There we go. So at this location, I can put a check file. Doesn't mean anything fancy. And so in here I can put up and save it. And so that's for the first box. And so now we should see it clear up. Now is this not refreshing? I don't think it automatically refreshes. There we go. So now we're back up. And if I look over here, I see we have a check. Well, just downloads in this case, not an HTML, but I can change that on the Nginx if I want to, which I probably should. Okay, there's the check on that, which is still, there's nothing there. And now the box should just go to 1 every single time because I didn't force the check on the other guy. But now let me go on the second box and do the same thing. I'll put enough in there. And it should come up again. So now if I go to statistics, there we are, we're up now. And so the check is working. In theory. There we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. And so that basic check is working. At this point, let me take a break real quick and figure out how to update my Nginx so that check file will actually return a value I can see. I don't want it to just download. I mean, it's fine, but it's nice I want to see it. Okay, I got it figured out. So let me fix this. So if I go here, everything's running fine. So let me go into my Nginx boxes and remove. There's that check. I'm going to remove that file. So I'll remove it from that one and remove it from my second one. I can learn how to type one of these days. Nginx, check. There we go. So now they're both gone. So both of these boxes should be failing. Perfect. So now what I want to do, and what I should have done in the first place, and I usually do on other boxes, is to tweak the Nginx configuration to respond correctly. So I normally don't. There we go. Not that guy. Okay, maybe I wiped it out. I normally don't have multiple configuration files for Nginx. I usually just have one. But out of the box, they give you multiple. So I'm just going to kind of go with that for the moment and use theirs. So normally I just fiddle with the Nginx comp but that actually in this case refers to sites enabled, and there's a default, and that's what we're using right now. So I'm not going to bother cleaning that up a whole lot. I'm just going to leave it as is. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go in here, and here is our server listed on port 80. There's a location. There's our index. And I'm going to add something in here. And I'm going to add this guy. I'm going to add a specific location that if they hit /check, it'll return 200, and it'll return this character string, just up, UP, that's it. And also it adds this header text plain, so it'll make sure it'll display, basically. So I'll save that. And I should be able to do a sudo service nginx restart. And we're restarting on box 1. And now it should see it. So box 1, wait, am I in box 1? Oh, I'm on box 2, sorry. So box 2 is up. And now if I go to check on box 2, I see a little up. Easy enough. So let me do the same thing to the first box. I'll do a sudo by nginx sites enabled default. Boom. And come down here and add that section again. I didn't mean this to turn into an nginx lesson, but it's probably a good thing to know. And that's a lot preference than I'd prefer to do this than to actually have a file, because file can go away. Well, let me back up. I don't know. No, there's different ways of doing this. If I had a file or some kind of reference like that, it's easier to wipe the file out or touch it or remove it, and then I can bring the site down. As is, if I do this, I'd have to tweak it and restart. Okay, I'm not going to fight with that in this tutorial. It's interesting to know. I probably should have done a file. Okay, but maybe I'll do that. Yeah, let me do this first. Sudo services nginx restart. Nope, restart. Okay, now we're good. So now, if I go here to number 1, I get an up. If I go to my statistics, I'm up. If I go here, I bounce between 1 and 2. Okay, let me pause for a second. Let me go back and fix my nginx again, because I think I really should refer to I should refer to a file. That way it's easy to tweak that file, remove that file, or do something to that file and bring those servers down with a shell script or something. So let me go do that real quick. Okay, I figured it out. I should have known this. So I already did it to one of my boxes. So what I'm going to do is actually go back and fix that default setting. So rather than to return 200, I'll just, for the specific location, -check. It'll still go to /check and go to the right folder and the right file, but I'm going to add this header content to it so that I can visually see it on the website. So that's kind of useful. So I'll do that and then restart it. But then now it should fail because that file doesn't exist. So if I go here, I'm failing. But I can go to sudo, let's see. I can go create that file again and put it up in it. So now I should be good. I should come back. And I should be able to see it. Excuse me. I should be able to see it. So that's kind of convenient. So that part's fixed. Now I want to do, so checking's basically working, but I want to do, there's a few little tweaks you can do to kind of clean things up. So let me go back and clean up HAProxy settings. So we can go edit the HAProxy, and we look down here at the bottom, and there's our 2 server connections. But what we want to do is we can move some of that information out. So here we have the option right there, and what we can do is we can come down here and install HTTP check. And we can say expect string. Oh, wait, that's the best. Yeah, it's a little better version. Expect string up. So right now, as it stands, it's not checking if that string says up. It's just checking that that file exists and returns a 200. I can change it to whatever I want. I can change it to down, left, right. It can be confusing information. So what I would prefer to do is do this. Exactly. So now I'm expecting that thing to be up. Also, I should say to return the string up. Also, I can do this. I can do default server enter 3 seconds. So it'll check every 3 seconds. Fall 3, rise 2. And then I can take this off the back side of this for both of these. So I still need that check there. So now it'll check every 3 seconds, and if it fails 3 times, it'll bring it out of rotation. If it comes back twice, it'll bring it back in. But it will look for the string up, UP capitalized. So now if I save that, I restart, sudo service HAProxy restart, we should be okay at the moment, right? Because everything is bringing back up. But now if I go into one of my Nginx boxes and I edit this to down, I'll save it. So now on number 1, we should see down. Make this bigger. So number 2 is up. Number 1 is down. And that should report back saying, hey, it's down. Even though the site is up, even though that file exists, it didn't say up in it. Now, there's still one more thing to do that I found out. It's actually, if you do it in that default manner, it's looking for up in the string. So I could say, I watched the movie up. And if I save that, it'll come back. So yellow is starting to come back. And there it's back. So it's looking for the text. UP has to be in there somewhere. I don't like that. That makes me nervous. Because what happens if you want this check to be more verbose? Let's say you want to turn it into some JSON thing and have a lot more information that other people can use as well as your HAProxy check. Well, there's a way to do that. We can, let's go back here. We can go edit our HAProxy config, and rather than expect string, we can expect, and let's see, expect an R string. And so that is a regular expression. In regular expressions, I can do this, which means at the beginning, the next thing should be UP and end. So it has to be a UP capitalized, nothing else. If I want to do some crazy JSON, I could define it here pretty well in a regular expression if I was looking for something. But the nice thing here is I can do a regular expression. So there's that regular expression now. I'll restart. Oop. What did I do? Did something wrong. Found R string. Oh, I did something wrong, didn't I? HTTP check, expect R string. Oh, that should be right. Let me back my stuff out there. Let me just, okay. Let me look at my notes, because I did this. Expecting a string, and you can expect an R string. So I do HTTP check, expect R string, and up. Yeah, that should work. Just double checking here. Okay, I just must have typed it in wrong. What did I do before? Oh, I had arting. I cut off the S. Okay, I see it now. So now it should be looking for that specific thing. And so now I watched the movie Up, and it should reject it. So if I come here, I see it gets rejected. Now I will fix it to just Up. And I should get back in the rotation. Perfect. So now we're back in. Okay, so that's how you basically get set up some checks. Very nice. Now the next thing I'm going to do is clean this up a little further, my configuration file. I'm going to split out the what they call the front end and the back end, just to make the configuration file a little cleaner and easier to understand. Okay, some further cleaning up of the HAProxy config. Now make note, on the statistics page, we have this stats right now, and this HTTProxy, which does what we're going to call the front end and the back end. And I'm going to split this out. So just make note of that. There's only 2 things here. There's about to be 3. So we'll come over here into the HAProxy. Oops, wrong one. Come into the HAProxy box. And edit our file oh, that's the Nginx box. Okay. Let me find the right thing. There we go. Here's our HAProxy box. So let me tweak it again. We'll go down here to the bottom. And now I'm just going to make this, in general, cleaner. So the listen stats, they're fine as is. I just like to put in some more stuff in here. So now we can, say, read it easier if someone comes in here again. And then what I'm going to do is, here is this section that's serving both as front end and back end. And I'm going to rip it apart, basically. So the first thing I'm going to do is do the front end. So here I'll copy this. So here's our front end. Front end for www. So I'll call it front end. And you can have multiple front end if you happen to be servicing multiple URLs or whatever. So I'll call this www, and I'll bind it to port 80. And then what I'll do is I'll say it's HTTP. And then I will say what the default backend is. Backend is also www. Because if you name your front end and your back end can have the same name. Well, let's avoid the confusion. I'll say www front end and www back end, just to avoid the confusion. So there's my front end. It listens on port 80. It listens for HTTP, and its default backend that it sends stuff to is called www backend. So now let's make the backend. And I'll come down here and I'll call it backend. www backend. There we go. And then I'll basically, I can copy a lot of this in here. So I've already bound to port 80 on the listen end. But now on this end, the back end, I'm going to do the balance. I'm going to do the option. I'm going to do all the rest of this. So basically I can just move this up here. And there I go. Easy enough. Now why would you want to do this? Makes things cleaner. And it helps you out in the future, but just simplifies things. So I'll just save it as is and restart it. Then if I come over here and reload our HAProxy page, statistic page, I'll see now I have a front end and a back end. And I can see how they're measuring up. Just makes things a little cleaner, a little easier to read. So that's kind of it for the last cleanup on that. Now, next section I'm going to go over is sticky sessions. How do you handle keeping one incoming client talking to the same server during their session? Sticky sessions. Okay, sometimes when you have somebody come in and they start talking to a box on the back end, the HAProxy is doing the load balancing, you want them to keep talking to that same box during their session because maybe they're caching information there or whatnot. Now, in my case, these are just Nginx boxes serving static data, so who cares? They can go to any box they want. Life is good. But that's not always the case. Sometimes you want to keep them on the same box, at least during their session, and or during that next hour or whatever. And there are ways of doing that in HAProxy. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's not too bad at all. But before you do that, what you're going to want to do is you want to go download something. So let me grab the URL as he says it. Okay, now I'll put this URL in the show notes. This is going to make your life much easier. You can go look up edit this cookie. And this is actually a direct link to the Google Chrome store. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to install this tool called edit this cookie. I've already had it. It's a great tool because what you're going to want to do is you're going to use it to look at the cookies that you currently have on the site you're on. Now I have mine over here, and you can see here's all these cookies for this site. But going back, so now if you install that tool, and if you go to your HAProxy and hit reload, you should have nothing in here. See, no cookies. But we'll use these cookies to keep session, to keep the stickiness, I should say. So now let's go set it up so I can actually do that. So we're going to come down here and edit this again. And what we want to do is to add a cookie. So come down here, doesn't matter particularly where it's put, but I'll say cookie, and I'll say server ID, insert, indirect, no cache. Now I'm sure there's some fancier things you can do here, but this is kind of bare bones basic, get it to stick. And then what you have to do is you come down here, and these servers, you have to add the fact that they're going to have a cookie in a sense. And then you give it the name that you're going to put on the cookie. Nginx-2. And so if they happen to hit the first box, they'll get a cookie, and the cookie will have this information there. So well, I'll show you. Let me save that and restart. Okay, so now here I am on my HAProxy, so I'll reload this. Now if I look, I should have a cookie. And there I have a cookie. And the cookie is called server ID. So you can see in my let me open it up. You can change it to whatever you want. I happen to call it server ID, that's what they did. But I can call it Joe Bob, whatever I want. But inside the cookie is the variable Nginx-01. And so when that gets passed back in, it says, hey, connect. Next time you connect, assuming you still have this cookie, connect to the Nginx-01 box. And so now that I have that, I can hit reload, and I'm always going to hit the first Nginx box every single time because I have that cookie. But now if I go here and I delete the cookie using this tool, so now I have no cookie, now it should bump me to the second box, or it could go to the second box. So now I'm always on the second box because if I look at my cookie, there we are, Nginx-02, and I'm just there forever. With one exception. If, like right now, I'm attached to the second box. If the second box fails, if it's taken out of rotation, it will send me to one of the other boxes. So it will not absolutely respect that cookie because if the box is down, you want to be routed somewhere else. So that makes perfect sense. But now we want to tweak it a little bit more. Because unfortunately, I don't like this current setup because if they have that cookie, and if they never clear their cookies, every time they come back to your site, they're going to go to the same box for the next 10 years. Every single time they go, they're going to box 1, box 1, box 1, box 1. If that's what you want, great. That's probably not what you want. What you probably want is for them to be on that box during their session. So that is easily enough done. So what I can go down here is I can go back down to the cookie. So all that, no cache, just fine. And then I can add max idle, 30 minutes, and max life, I'll just say 8 hours. And that should be all I have to do. Now what that says is if they're idle, if they get this cookie and they're idle for 30 minutes, not hitting refresh, not looking at anything, after 30 minutes that cookie will no longer be valid and they could be put on another machine. But if they are hitting refresh every 29 minutes, this cookie will be valid for 8 hours. But you can adjust it how you want. So now if I save that and restart, we can reload this page. And now if we look at our cookie, we'll see it's a little more complex. So there's that nginx02, and there's some probably encrypted time information, or just probably not even encrypted. It's probably just binary. But that tells it how long to stay. And that's all it is. It's not actually doing length in the cookie. It's just, it actually puts information here. Now I could, of course, delete it. But now what I can do to show you, a 30-minute, I can wait for 31 minutes. But that's a little ridiculous. So let me go change the settings. We'll change them down to a more viewable level. Let me see, what did I do here? There we go, 1 minute. So let me go down to 1 minute and 2 minutes. So 1 minute and 2 minutes. And then we'll restart. Now let me bring up a timer. And start the timer. And so we'll look at this over here. There we go. So there's the timer now. So now I'll go here and I'll wipe the cookie out. So we're starting fresh. No cookies. I reload, and I happen to be going to 1. And so I'll reset this and start it. So now after anything over a minute, if I'm not clicking and I won't click, I could potentially, after a minute, it'll re-choose again. The cookie's no longer valid, my sticky session's gone, and I could attach to number 2. So I'll let this minute pass. Okay, so a minute's passed. Now if I hit refresh, because I haven't been reloading the page, I should be bumped to server 2 in theory. And I am. So now I'm on server 2. I should have cookie 2. There we are. So let me reset this. Reset, start. And so now if I keep hitting refresh, I should still keep getting server 2 until I pass that 2-minute margin, and then I should bump back to server 1 because that'll end my sticky session's only valid for at most 2 minutes, even if I am hitting refresh all the time. So here we can see more than a minute has passed and I'm still on server 2. Okay, now we're at the 2-minute mark. If I reload, I should go to the other server. And I do. So that's all working exactly as expected. So yeah, the sticky sessions are working. Perfect. Okay, so a little wrap up. So I have HAProxy installed and working. I've got it, doing a round robin balance between the 2 servers behind it. I've got it checked so I can do a little health check to see if they're up or down and remove them from the rotation just fine. We got the sticky sessions working just fine. So pretty basic setup, working pretty well. So there you go. So that's kind of it for this video. Now I just want to leave a word of encouragement for everyone out there. So who's working hard and trying to learn all this crazy stuff that us programmers have to learn, or DevOps, or whoever you are, system admins. There's a lot of stuff to learn. But just, remember, there's an old proverb, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will serve before kings. He will not upserve before obscure men. So the harder you work on stuff like this, the better you get, the more talented you get. You're not going to be serving you're going to be serving before better people and better offices and better jobs. The more information you can get, the better you get at this, the better you can serve. The more skilled you are, the better you're going to make your workplace, and the better people are going to try to grab and hold on to you or to bring you into better workplaces. So keep working hard. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please give it a like. To subscribe, just click the subscribe button. Also, you can follow me on Twitter under the handle @whiteboardcoder.com. View any code I may have thrown up as a gist at GitHub under the username PatmanDenver, or check out my blog site at whiteboardcoder.com.